After a day of travel, our GAT tour agent, Raouf, meets us with Marlia's name on a sign.
And it's very famous, one of the very famous bridges we have it, and very strongest bridges we have.
We're stunned by the insanity of Cairo drivers, but our driver, Mohammed, thinks it's no problem.
All the papers for the propriety for him.
We settle into our hotel and fall asleep under the sliver of a moon, listening to the sounds of an ancient city. At breakfast, we're amazed to see that every apartment in Cairo seems to have its own rooftop satellite dish.
But you used to, so you are like a representative of the television?
Yes.
You are a representative. Cute, so cute. I was
so
speaking,
happy to
yes,
be
so
here.
happy, so funny. And I was speaking with his wife. I need to get married to someone like Steven, but 25 years younger.
We're picked up by our Cairo tour guide, Osme, who gives us details as we drive a half hour to the west side of town to see the famed pyramids of Giza.
So nowadays we don't have lighthouse of Pharos, we have just the Great Pyramid as one of the total 7 wonders all over. The last week it was awful. It was a temperature, it was something very hot.
At the base of the Great Pyramid, Osme has us stand for the mandatory "We really are here" shot. Then we walk all the way around the central pyramid, still shaking our heads in disbelief. From a distance, Osme takes another proof shot. There are many local visitors today because it's Friday, which is a weekend for Muslims. Our driver knows the back way to a papyrus shop.
It's breakable. Yeah, because it contains a big amount of sugar and water inside it. Like the interior of a sugar cane. That's why I'll use the metal hammer like this. To reduce the lid, get it out like this way. Use it in the US, this one for pastry.
After the demonstration, we buy a small piece of papyrus. Then we head south for lunch with Osme. She seems amazed that we've been married for 40 years. One of the most perfect statues of Ramses II ever carved never stood upright. It now lies protected from the elements near other ancient stonework.
We can see a part of this decoration up there.
Saqqara is one of the earliest pyramids, a step designed for King Zoser in the 3rd dynasty, about 2600 years BC. Next, we are treated to a rug-making demonstration. Now you can see why these rugs are so expensive. Every thread is knotted by hand. We wait in the courtyard of a 5-star hotel for our night train to Aswan. The air-conditioned compartment has 2 bunks, even a wash basin. We find ourselves in and out of sleep though, as the train makes local stops throughout the night. All morning we get glimpses of the great river and fertile farmland. This is why hydroelectric is a healthier alternative. After arriving in Aswan, we're taken to our hotel. The top floor view is amazing. We decide to see a little of the town. Here, welders are repairing a boat on the Nile. You know this isn't OSHA approved. After lunch, we go for a boat ride. Our guide, Nadim, is a Nubian born and raised in Aswan. He tells us they get 0 inches of rain a year. The bone-dry desert proves it.
By her husband. She died in 1999. She was a Frenchman. Her name was Bijon Yvette Labrousse.
Our boat pulls ashore, and we find that the easy camel ride we heard about is going to be a good quarter mile uphill with no stirrups for your feet. The monastery of St. Simeon dates back to 600 AD. It was a way station, a school, and a hospital for travelers for many centuries. We make it back down the hill on our camels. We board the boat and ride another mile upstream to Nadim's childhood home, a Nubian village. Marlia is taken by the color and quality of the hand-woven scarves. In the twilight, we ride downstream again to Aswan, a truly memorable evening. This will be a long day. We're picked up at 3:30 in the morning for a 3-hour high-speed convoy to one of Egypt's most photographed sites. The drivers play follow the leader at 80 to 90 miles an hour just to stay awake, but nobody can pass the lead bus. They'll lose their license. Abu Simbel was created by Ramses II to impress any river traveler approaching from the south. It still does a pretty good job. They didn't allow photos inside these temples, but with my pocket cannon, I snuck a few anyway. Even 100 years ago, visitors just had to leave their mark. Ramses had a second temple built right next to his for his beloved wife Nefertari. The ride back takes even longer. They're forcing us to stick to the legal 60 miles an hour. This British dam was built in 1902, but it wasn't high enough to contain all the floods or generate much power. So in 1971, the Russians helped Egypt create the High Aswan Dam. Behind it formed the largest reservoir in the world, Lake Nasser. The rising lake put many ancient sites underwater. Some were moved to higher ground, including the Temple of Philae.
To the end of the god of evil, no more evil. But the old ancient Egyptian people, they believing that fighting between good and bad will be lasting forever.
Despite its antiquity, this fine stonework remains almost flawless. After the British built the first dam, this is where the water lapped at the stones for decades. On the way back, we meet Nadim's fiancée in an approaching tour boat. She's a guide too.
You know she's my wife.
Yes, I know. You're very lucky, very
Send
lucky.
him back to me as well. Take care of her. Salam alaikum. شكراً حبوب.
In the afternoon, we're moved from our hotel to the 5-star Nile cruise boat. After dinner, we walk to the Nubian Museum. This model shows how far Abu Simbel would have been underwater if it hadn't been moved. That evening, we're treated to energetic Nubian dancers and a few brave fellow travelers, too. The boat has traveled downstream all night, and before breakfast, we debark and spend an hour at Komombo, a temple that honors the Nile's once killer crocodiles. Ancient cypress wood still holds these stones together. This well was to measure the depth of the Nile for taxing next year's crops. Back on the boat again, it's breakfast. Then we head for the top deck to watch the world go by. Life is good. We see a luxurious golden boat, a dahabeah, which needs some help getting upstream. To cool off, we head for our air-conditioned suite, where I doze off like a fat slug. That's the train we'll be riding back to Cairo in a few days. Midday, we stop at Edfu and take a fast carriage ride to the temple, about a mile away. Marlia does like columns. This is where we say goodbye to Nadim as we head downstream to meet a new guide in Luxor. At the Esna locks, boats change level by about 25 feet, bypassing a dam that generates electricity. With some 250 tour boats plying this stretch of the Nile, a second set of locks was recently opened to handle the extra traffic. On the boat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner were served this way. Our guide and driver took us across the river and through miles of fertile farmland toward the Valley of the Kings. Of course, after the Valley of the Kings came the next gift shop, this time alabaster and ceramics. Yes, we bought something. The Temple of Queen Hatshepsut stands as one of the preeminent architectural designs of all time. It can be seen easily from Karnak across the river, more than 5 miles away. Now that's an artistic way to use beach towels. Before dinner, we visit the Luxor Museum. At 2 meals on our trip, we celebrated birthdays. The cake was always very good. Our tour guide in Luxor was Ahmed. He is married to another guide who was badly injured in the 1997 terrorist attack, which killed 63 tourists and guides at Hatshepsut's temple. Karnak is the largest and most impressive of Egypt's temple complexes. Graffiti was found here too. John Gordon was particularly prolific. In 1804, this egotistical Scot defaced every major site in Egypt. Queen Hatshepsut left her mark here too, about 1450 BC. Her obelisk, 97 feet tall, is cut from a single stone of granite. The 75-foot obelisk nearby was placed there by her father, Thutmose I. Luxor Temple is only about a mile from Karnak. Its obelisk is 82 feet tall, placed there by Ramses II. A slightly shorter one was taken to Paris in 1836 and is in the Place de la Concorde. Note the mosque that was built right inside the ancient temple. In two marble sculptures, King Tut's wife, Akhenaten, is seen gently touching his shoulder. Leaving our five-star boat, we're dropped off at a Luxor hotel just a half a mile from downtown. One side, working farmland, the other side, the sounds of the city. There seems to be no place in Egypt where you can't hear the call to prayer 5 times a day through loudspeakers. An afternoon stroll not far from the hotel finds children playing in a carnival atmosphere near their school. Karnak's powerful sound and light program walks the audience through the temple in stages.
The city of God was a fortress where a whole garrison of mystic rotaries watched over the great divine scheme of things. Sunrises, eclipses of the moon, dynastic chains, the bark of night, the balms of immortality.
The moon is now full. Finally, we're all seated for a grand finale across a reflecting pool. The stately obelisks providing a dramatic background